Okay, hi, Mr. Automation back again, and today with the next episode on Azure and Bicep. And we already deployed a lot of our environment, right? We have the storage account here, our key vault, we have our VNets and everything here with our subnets. But we do, and we also did the demo, the previous one, on the VPN client, right? So we can now connect from my PC or any PC with that installation over the internet via my gateway here to these networks here. But currently these networks are empty. So the next step is let's deploy a Linux box in one of these subnets here. I think I called it subnet 1 and 2 in my environment, so I think the names on this drawing are not perfectly in sync with the reality, but it doesn't matter, right? It's not like a production environment, it's for demo purposes. So today we're going to deploy a Linux VM. How do you do that with a Bicep approach? So in the previous demo I showed you that you can create a resource in Azure and then, for instance, download a deployment file for that. You get a JSON file, then you with Bicep decompile. You can then decompile the JSON file to a Bicep file. And that's sort of what I did for the virtual machine as well, because you need to have a disk and a network and all kinds of things. Of course, you can type it out. At some point, you will find a syntax or a correct example, perhaps somewhere from the internet. Sometimes can be a little bit tedious, and quite cumbersome as well, and often time consuming. We don't have time, you know that as well. So I would rather, the first time when you create a complex object in Azure, so something not a storage account, but really some more complex, like the VPN gateway, for instance, just click it together in the portal, then export that specific template. You can convert it into a Bicep template. That's what I did, and that's what you see here on my screen. So, and again, we have some input parameters. We don't want to work really with hard-coded values. Sometimes we do, like here for the subnet, I just put it hard-coded in. Anyways, you can still override it at runtime, by the way. Anyways, most of them are parameterized input. And basically what this Bicep file does in a nutshell, spins up a Linux VM, make sure there's a network card connected to it so you can have a network connection, so you can SSH to it, for instance, and that there's a disk attached, right? You need to have some storage on the Linux machine as well. So basically that's it. So we have a resource network interface. Very simple. I don't know why this is called ipconfig1. I don't know if I can change it. Well, it was the default, so I just left it here for the sake of the demo. Some values needed here, like if you want to enable network acceleration, that's a parameter we enabled here on top, so you can provide it input for a virtual machine, whether you want to enable it or not. Default is on true. Then we also have the virtual machine itself. So you need to have like a size, right? What kind of virtual machine? I think this is 2 CPUs and 4 gig of memory, something like that. Then you need to have a storage profile with the disk, like I already said. So I put some dynamic values here. So a new virtual machine will get a new disk name as well. Otherwise you get conflicts in your Azure resources. I made here and there a little bit of dynamics to support deployment for multiple virtual machines. So let's deploy two different virtual machines. And here's some other stuff like which version of the image. And I think these kinds of things, I will first comment this out. And I think this is the syntax, yeah, right? Just like C#. And you can, it has no suggestions. And perhaps if you do this, no, it has no suggestions from me. I don't know what that is, so I just leave it in, I guess. I would have expected like a sort of a drop-down box with the options you have for the image, but apparently it's not there. So I just left it the way it was. I consumed it as well. When I exported it from the portal, you have a network profile and you have an OS profile, image default, something like that. But these kinds of things really come from when you export a virtual machine from Azure to a JSON template. And perhaps we can do that afterwards as well. Let's see if we get time for that. Last line in the Bicep file is it outputs the admin username. Could be handy, you run that thing and then at least you know which user you can use to log in to that remote box. Let's clear the screen. I can run a command line, of course, but what I did, I created a little wrapper around it because we need to provide some arguments for the Bicep file as well, right, for the deployment. I made it a little bit more dynamic. So when we run this PowerShell script, it accepts a resource group as input, a virtual machine name, and it prompts you to provide a password for that virtual machine, and it is of type secure string. Okay, it's not a normal string. Then we set the network interface, virtual network ID. Already showed it in a couple of other videos how you can construct this, or perhaps get it from the JSON file on Azure itself. The virtual machine computer name, I just set that here to the virtual name that we gave during runtime. And then here we construct some properties again with some values in a hash table, and we hand that over to the new AC resource group deployment commandlet, and that will spin up a Linux VM for us if everything goes right. So let's run this. And the nice thing is, when we have this Linux VM here up and running, we're going to establish a VPN session here from my system, and we're trying to connect over the internet, over the gateway, all over these kinds of things back to this virtual machine. And let's see if we are able to do so. Back to the code here. So let me run this script, and it asks me which resource group. Dev, for me it's the dev resource group. Virtual machine name, let's call it Linux 01, very descriptive. Not, but doesn't matter, it's a demo, I will clean them up anyways later. And a password, so this is what I mentioned, of secure string. And let's provide a very secure password, welcome 123, something like that. It's stupid of course, but for now it's fine. Enter, and now it's deploying a Linux VM. So now we wait a little bit for the Azure Resource Manager. It's currently provisioning this Bicep template, and if all goes well, we should end up with a Linux VM that is connected to the network and has a disk attached to it, of course. And let's wait for the deployment now. Well, by the looks of it, it's ready. So let's investigate a little bit more. Succeeded. That's always good, I guess. Admin username is Mark. That will be the user we're going to use to log on to that Linux box apparently. And the password I gave at runtime, of course. You didn't see that, but I know that, of course. And yeah, it didn't even take a minute. 40 seconds, no? 30 seconds. Okay. That's interesting and fast as well, to be fair. So let's go to our resource group here. Refresh it. And let's see, yeah, we have a Linux VM here. I don't see any disk yet, by the way, or a network interface. Let's see if that's a bug. Okay, no, I see it now. So we have a Linux, type virtual machine. We have a network interface card, and we have a disk, and all with the descriptive name. So you know which network interface and disk belongs to which VM, right? This be a little bit logical. Okay. So now we have a Linux VM, and we should be able to connect to the Linux VM. But how do we connect to it? But first we need to know the IP address, right? Because it's not resolvable by DNS by anyways now, because I haven't configured that. So it's very simple. But we have an IP address, and this is the IP address that I see here, right? So I copy that to my clipboard. Then I will go to my VPN client, because we have a connection now, right? In the previous video we established the VPN gateway for our environment, and we can now connect to that environment via VPN. So we have a secure connection. Let's wait for that. Yeah. So now we should have a connection to Azure, and what we can now do is basically any editor will do, of course, but or session manager will do, of course, but I think PuTTY is very commonly used all over the world, I think. So let's get the IP address again from the Linux system here. Yeah. Let's paste that in PuTTY here, and it doesn't want to paste, so let's just type it 4.4. Let's try to paste it now. Yeah, now it works. So let's open a session on port 22 SSH to this newly deployed on a private IP address, and as you can see here, ipconfig/all. Okay, I don't know why it did that, to be fair, it doesn't matter. ipconfig/all, yeah, exactly. So our dev VNet we are connected. This is the IP address I'm sitting in. And if you see our drawing, that's all interconnected. This is the network the Linux VM belongs to, by the way. And we're connecting via that VPN gateway now over the internet, via a tunnel to that virtual machine. So now let's open it up. It already prompts me for something, though I would say it is connected. Now I say Mark as a login, and a fantastic password I made up. I think this, because I think I already forgot. Let's see, yeah, okay, that was the password. And let's see the host name. Let's see the IP address, IPA. Here you go, 10.4.4, and yeah. So now we have one Linux VM up and running, and let's, for the sake of the demo, deploy a second one and also see if our VPN connection works and we can connect to that one. So let's do that now. So I will go back to the Linux VM scripts that we already have. That deploys that template. We'll run that again. Resource group will be again dev. Now we'll deploy Linux 02 second VM. Fantastic password again. And we wait. And let's see how long it takes this time. Okay, again, it took about 33 seconds, I think. 32 seconds again, so again, quite quick. Let's go back to our resource group, our development group. Let's see, we have a Linux 2. We have now a Linux 2 VM as well, Linux VM. So let's open this. Let's copy this IP address if it wants to copy this time. Right, let's copy that. Let's go back to PuTTY. Let's create a new session here, a new session, and then let's see if yeah, now it actually works. So now we connect to the second Linux virtual machine. Accept that, Mark, fantastic password, host name, IP address, as you can see, and this is a different virtual machine than the one that I was already logged on to with PuTTY. So back to the drawing. So this whole fantastic environment, we now have two Linux VMs running, which we can access via the VPN client, and everything works fine and smooth. What I will do now is probably clean up the Linux VMs or perhaps shut them down. I don't know yet, because I don't want to pay for them, because I'm paying this out of my own pockets. And in the next video, I want to demonstrate how we do that for Windows. So we're going to deploy a Windows VM in the next video. So stay tuned, I would say. Thanks for watching again, and see you again.